So the big news before Gamescom is Halo 5's future DLC. Halo 5 is getting another huge update. That's very exciting because it's going to come with a lot of really cool stuff we haven't seen before, and we're going to talk about that today, as well as a lot of changes are coming to Halo Wars 2's final version, and that includes changes to the leader powers, how it actually works, as well as new base appearances, the actual fundamentals of the economy with the resources and powers are changing as well, and a higher population has already been made to development, and they are working on making a higher population limit in the final Halo Wars 2 game. And finally, guess what? Halo Wars 2 is getting another beta in early 2017. Very exciting stuff. Guys, let's break it all down. That was just a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. So first off, I do want to say we do have another giveaway on follower.gg. This one is pretty exciting. It is a copy of Halo Wars 2, the Ultimate Edition, and better yet, this time you can actually compete. So instead of just following us here or getting some random raffle here, there is an actual way to increase your chances by visiting the link every day and getting bonus points, and it works off a bonus system to increase your chances of winning. You know, you can check it out, link down in the description. Right, so more Halo 5 DLC has been teased since the last official final update, Warzone Firefight. There are no details about this new update in specific, but we did know that there would be more updates and hotfixes and stuff coming later this year to Halo 5. We already know that there is a content browser, aka the file browser, returning with some really cool enhancements, as well as new places to play, new forge objects, and items coming. However, the big news in this area is, quote, over the next few weeks we'll be sharing the name, release date, and full contents of this next update. So Dan right there talks as if this new update is going to be a singular huge update such as Warzone Firefight or any of the other updates that we have got in the past. It'll be named, it'll probably be coming with some new skins, at least some new forge objects, new places to play, probably some new skyboxes, maybe a couple new ones for title, or you know, any of the forge maps. That would be really cool to see. Moving on to the promised Halo Wars 2 news. Many players hopped on to the day of E3 when they announced and also released the free Halo Wars 2 beta with no obligations, but having Xbox Live. It's nice to know that the beta actually made one hell of a punch in development that they explain on news.xbox.com. They also thank us and they say, quote, as a reminder, this was more of a technical preview of where we are in development, or as I like to refer to it, a true development beta. That was Dan Ayub. By this, he is probably referring to about how most betas today aren't actually betas, they're much more like demos to get players hyped for its release, and it's nice to know that what we played was a real beta. What we've done is actually going to heavily impact development, as they explain. So now I'm going to read what they say word for word, because I think it's important for us to get every little detail out of this, as this is kind of scarce information. So let's get into it. The Halo Wars team across 343 Industries and Creative Assembly, he says, felt it important to share with you our key takeaways and how we will be adapting the game based on your feedback. You took the time to play, so now we are taking the time to respond to things you have made a direct impact on. Community feedback, forums, user research tests, and our own back-end systems and observations all drove development changes that the game will undergo post-beta period. You know, I would like to step in here for just a moment and, excuse me, Dan, and say that 343 Industries has been doing a great job attempting to respond and get back to with everything we've been saying and asking, and I've said this for a long time. 343 Industries may not get it perfect, but they've been doing a very good job at listening to us and at least attempting to get what we all want, at least the average of what we want. Okay, back to Dan. Probably the biggest criticism we heard about the beta was the issues of connectivity, desyncs, etc. I'm happy to say that, thanks to you, we've already addressed these issues in the final game. So it's great to see that that will not be coming back. He continues, there are a significant number of individual changes and adjustments being made, including unit tuning, game mode pacing, UI improvements, stability, and flow improvements based on the data we received from the beta. At a high level, there are 5 main areas of focus that will be adjusting in addition to the general improvements listed above: controls, leader abilities, bases, resources and energy, and population. So let's start with controls. He says, "We received a great deal of varied feedback around the control scheme in the beta, and based on this feedback, we've already made a number of adjustments to the controller layout to make it faster and easier to engage the actions players want to take. In addition to the layout changes we've already completed, we are investigating multiple controller configurations. It's still to be determined what we can get done in that time of launch, but we're hopeful to add more choice when it comes to control schemes." Leader powers. So now we move on to the leaders and what they can do. Dan Ayub says, "While the leader powers were popular among these players that invested time in them, many players found their use unclear and that the evolution trees were confusing and not distinct enough. We are currently working at ways to make the leader powers usage more straightforward, easier to use, and understandable as to how the powers are evolving. Basically, we are tuning leader powers to better balance cost versus impact." Now we move on to bases, and listen to this. He says, "Arguably the biggest point of feedback regarding bases was that it wasn't clear enough how buildings were evolving or the amount of damage they had sustained, both for the attacker as well as the defender. As a result, we're working to change the appearance of the individual structures within the base to better reflect their current state." That's exciting to know right there. And now, he says, this will help players eyeball their base or that of their opponent to quickly assess its state of development. We've also already added UI feedback so that players will know when their own structures are working on upgrading or creating units. So now we move on to one of the more controversial but also more fundamental parts that have been changed since the beta. And this is the resources and power section. Dan Ayub says, "Power collection was highly discussed topic. We heard loud and clear that costs seemed too high, and players were forced to have supply depots and reactors occupy a high number of build slots. As a result, we are changing the cost to scale with the stage of the game. For example, in the early stages, with lower power units, you will mostly focus on supplies. As you progress to the more advanced stages, power will become more of a factor, and you'll need to start planning an approach to resource buildings. The goal here is to facilitate management of resources early in the game while giving the players choice about how to grow their armies. In general, the benefits of having 2 resource economies is that it gives the players greater depth and control in defining their own strategies, and I'd have to definitely agree. Supply and power are used for different things. Example, buildings and units versus technology upgrades and leader powers, and focusing on one over the other is an important strategic decision during each match. So now we move on to the last section Dan Ayub wanted to talk about, which is the population limit. So I was scratching my head in live streams and I was asking the players and the viewers, like, why is the population limit so low? Why is it pretty much the same as the 360 version? I know that the graphics are a lot better, but I know that the Xbox One is much more capable of this low population limit. Even if there's 4 or 6 players in a match, I know that it could just run better, right? Well, Dan Ayub actually has a reason for this. He explains the reason. He says, "Without a doubt, it was clear that you want a higher unit population count. You got it. While the unit cap for the beta was purposely lower than what we'll launch with," so it was purposely lower probably because, battles would be more suppressed, they would be more easier to collect data from, I assume. He says, "We've already raised the population and are working to possibly increase further for the final game." So he says right there, they lowered it for a reason there, probably to collect data easier, to see matches go quicker. And he also says that they've already raised the population limit, which is great to hear for a lot of us because that was a big complaint. Now, this is going to, and this is something that many of us have probably not considered, but there's something called booming. And if you haven't heard, it's a phrase used in a lot of RTS games, which is where essentially, like in the game Age of Empires, which is the game I play quite frequently, is where you get a lot of villagers, you get a lot of resource makers, basically. I guess in this case it would be reactors or supply pads. And you would make them en masse. You wouldn't even have an army per se. You might have a good defense, maybe some walls laid out. I don't know what that would be in Halo Wars 2, maybe some Forerunner shields laid out, or maybe a friend defending you. But you would get as many resources coming in as possible. You would forget about a military, you'd forget about anything but making just a bunch of reactors and supply pads, basically, right? And so when you have this huge, massive income, right, and it would take some time to get this massive income rolling and to upgrade everything, I'd imagine, this is what a boom is. That's what a boom is in an RTS game. Now, when you have, let's say, some unit makers, right, some facilities that will make units for you, you can start pumping those out. But see, the thing is that wasn't so useful with a lower population, because by the time you have a good boom, you could have already reached the higher population and it wouldn't have really mattered a whole lot. But with this higher population, and perhaps even a higher one than the one that they've planned from the beginning, coming into Halo Wars 2, perhaps in the final version, if they can increase it, if that is feasible for the game to run on a higher population than what they expected, then oh my god, booming is going to be such a huge tactic, and it is going to be another strategy. And just knowing that there's a higher population limit, that is opening up Halo Wars 2 and more of a 3 or 4-dimensional RTS game. So here is the big news, and guys, buckle your seats, alright? So he first off thanks us and says, you know, thank you for your feedback, we take it very seriously, blah blah blah, thank you for taking us on this awesome journey. He then says, the beta showed only 2 of the many multiplayer modes will feature in the game. The range of modes are intended to satisfy a number of playstyles and appetites. We'll have modes that run from hours of play to modes you can play in as little as 5 minutes. I wonder what he means by 5 minutes, if he is being literal there. I mean, there's got to be some crazy like grunt mode or something. That would be insane. He continues, we'll outline more around these modes as we approach launch, and you'll have a chance to play these in the coming months. He also says there'll be more upcoming chances to play Halo Wars 2 at events like GamesCom, PAX West, and also a few more events around the globe. Please note that these changes I outline here are ongoing work streams, and they won't necessarily be seen at the events, but they'll be present in the final game. And so here's the big news, guys, and I kind of left the best for the last here. There will be another beta in early 2017 on both Windows 10 and Xbox One. I repeat, another beta. And so this is something that doesn't happen too often, but man, it does say something about development. It does say that they are really looking forward to getting this thing out and letting people play it and try it out. And what I first talked about in this video was about how betas are kind of fake sometimes, and they're like demos, and why if there is a beta in January or February, it is going to be very short before the game actually launches. So this other quote-unquote beta coming out in January and February, I predict it won't actually have much to do with development, because there just won't be enough time to change it. I could be wrong with today's, fast updates on how they have day one updates, and, they could also update the game a month after or a couple weeks after the game releases based on that beta in early 2017. But that is it, guys. We are getting a beta on PC, I think sometime this summer, as well as confirmed a early 2017 beta, which is less than 2 months before Halo Wars 2 release. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to drop this video a like, and remember to try to get that Halo Wars 2 Ultimate Edition. We will ship that to your house on the release date in February next year. And if you do win, and definitely try it out. We have this cool little app on follower.gg/giveaway, and you can visit the site every day, get higher chances, get higher points to actually win. It's not like so much of a random raffle as it is like, you put more points in the bucket, then you will get more of a chance to win. So really exciting stuff. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe here on HaloFollower, and peace.